Toby Cannon. I'm currently based near Nottingham now, in the UK. Yeah, background was computer science. So was at the University of York, did computer science. That's where I started playing basketball. Had a blast, absolutely loved it there. When the pandemic hit, started, this is a bit of a side project, which is Myles Wellbeing, what I'm working on now. So that was, two and a bit years ago, and made the plunge, made the jump, and went full time on it just over a year ago now, about 13 months ago. The early stages of crypto and that kind of thing, we were kind of toying around with that and getting all excited by that kind of stuff, and I liked kind of hacking things together and making things work, and always trying to kind of figure out, like, never really getting into trouble, but just being just on the border of it, which I think is what you... Yeah. But that's what you need in a startup kind of world. You need to know, like, how can you push this space? What can you do differently? How can you not just follow what the trend is and figure things out, really?
And where I think entrepreneurs fit really well is that when you have a technical background that you can sit on and you understand the remit of the thing, but you've also got the drive and the other skills that can mash together. So for instance, you being a software engineer, but also like entrepreneur, you get it, you understand it, but you have skills that most software engineers don't. Does that make sense?
It sure does, yeah. I think it's, if you imagine one of those, I forget what the graphs are called, but you have different...
Venn diagram.
Not a Venn diagram, but like a similar-ish, where you drag different skills out, but you've only got a certain area that is your kind of skill set.
Like on FIFA. You're going fast or strong.
Yeah. So I think where some people, like you kind of talking about there, love a certain area. I love diving super deep on one area of mechanical engineering and love getting really deep into problems. I think what I enjoy most is kind of learning the surface stuff and then learning something new. So I was always like fascinated by psychology of sport. So if I said to you, like, Steve, go and run as far as you can and stop. Tell me when you want to stop. You stop at a certain point. But if I said, Steve, here's £1 billion to do one more step, you'd be able to do that one more step, which shows us there's such a weird link between what's mentally stopping you and what's physically stopping you. So I thought, okay, how can we use tech to solve this problem? We set about 7 months ago to build a physical wellbeing platform for desk-based employees that was simple, inclusive, and focused on sustainable motivation. So that the business problem is desk-based workers sit down too long. And our solution is, how can we tap into psychology and use tech to encourage them to use more, to move more? Nudge theory is fascinating. Just having something that's like in front of you to give you that nudge, oh yeah, I should probably do that, really helps the brain's like value action gap. We think we're super smart humans, right? Which we all are. But I'm sure we can all think of a time where we felt we should have gone on the Peloton, or we should have gone to the gym, or called a relative. We actually thought, you know what, I'm just going to watch one more episode of whatever this is, even though we know that was the wrong thing, but we're in control of our body and ourselves. We still do the wrong thing. So it's how do we, as humans, close that value action gap? And that makes life like way easier and less tiring if you are focused on the elephant and not the rider. I kind of phrase, when I'm jumping on calls with people, I kind of say it in the emails. It helps get the call as well. Like, say, right now we're a startup, and no with the reasons just as valuable as a yes. So don't feel bad either way.
That's such a good line, by the way. No with a reason is more valuable than a yes. That's gold. You should have that as a plaque on your wall. I might even use that for version 3 of the road. Honestly, that's ace, because it's so true.
Yeah, it's a really good point about just talking to people and getting that kind of stimulus. I think creativity and ideas need two things: some kind of stimulus and some kind of space to smash two ideas together and figure something out. So there's kind of two components to creativity in my eyes. And the first part is just talking to people, anyone that you think might be interesting, even might not be interesting, just having chats with them. Like when we kind of reached out to each other on LinkedIn, I thought Steve looks really fascinating. Let's have a chat with him and just taking those opportunities to talk to people. Kind of feeding that brain with good stimulus that sets off all the good stuff in the brain. Like a fellow founder who I was chatting to a few weeks back, and they're kind of much later stage than us. They're raising their Series A, and I was chatting to him saying, like, hey, can you help me out here? Like, have some advice. And we spent 20 minutes having a really good chat, and he's a very intelligent, very kind of well-experienced person. And at the end of it, he said, just bear in mind that all I'm doing is sharing with you my lottery numbers. That won't work for me again, and that won't work for you right now. You have to kind of take all the bits that relate to what you're doing, like you were saying with the YouTube videos or something. You kind of see a little bit that bit works for me, that bit doesn't. Here's the way to go. And all that stuff in. I love the phrase that all I'm sharing with you is my lottery numbers. So that's quite cool.
No,
One of my mentors that I really respect and look up to is a guy called Ross Slate, who works at a company called Big Agency. And he was kind of describing it to me. He said, just imagine you're like a cliff diver. They don't just go to the edge and jump. That'd be absolutely daft. You get all these signals. It's not one signal. You're not just looking at the tide. You're looking at the swell, the wind, the height, the rocks, the tide, other people doing it. Like, what are all these signals? And at some point, they'll never be able to write down all these signals, but they'll know from getting these signals, yes, this feels right now. And that would be my advice. Kind of picture it like that. If you are thinking about going full-time on something, committing to anything, look at all these signals, think about it, mull it over. Imagine you standing there on the cliff, shaking, about to jump. And at some point you'll know, and you see these execs, these startup founders, these managers, whoever these people are, doing really well. And you kind of think that's not me, because that's separate. They're in New York, I'm in London, I'm doing this. I couldn't do that because of this. Until you realize that everyone's just a person, the same as like me and you, the same as everyone else. And people have very similar traits. Like you were saying earlier, people like sharing their advice, people like growing things, people like doing good for others on the whole. And yeah, not putting people on a pedestal just because of a job title or something like that. Most people are happy to talk. And if you want to do something big, like there's no reason why that can't be you over it. An exec that looks all shiny because they've had a big photo shoot and a really polished podcast. That's because they've had loads of editing and everything else gone to it as well.